Activation code required. Access granted. Warning. Evacuation sequence activated.
We're back. Welcome to the bunker.
Hello and welcome to another awesome episode of the S-4 Paranormal Bunker. Tonight we are joined by, of course, Nikki Jacobs and Robert White. Unfortunately, Rosella couldn't be in tonight, and I didn't get an answer back from our Keith, so he might be asleep already now. But in the studio here, it is me, your host, Cole Wigleitner, my wife, Kayla, and my son, John. Yes. So it is the five of us tonight talking to you about misconceptions with psychics and what they have to deal with on a daily basis, as well as various other things that we come up with. First thing I do want to start with is, to everyone that is no longer living in Jasper, I am so freaking sorry.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
What happened in Jasper?
It's
The entire
totally
town
on
is
fire.
Oh, damn.
All of the hotels are now on fire. The Petro Canada station just burst into flames and exploded. And the town's pretty much going to be gone.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, and now we've got fire spreading throughout BC again. So to all of our friends in BC, our Keith, Dave, Mike, all of you guys, be safe.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because it's right in their neck of the woods, too, which is scary.
No, it's moving that way, but it's not there yet.
So the other thing, the other weird couple of natural phenomenons that happened, there was an F3.
Yeah. Quesnel, BC had an F3 tornado. Yeah.
Which is 100% unheard of in that area. And it looks like yesterday, Yellowstone National Park.
The Biscuit Basin.
The Biscuit Basin just, exploded geyser style, but bigger, on a whole bunch of tourists that were there walking on the boardwalk.
Damn.
Yeah, no joke. You're like, oh, what's that? Oh, shit! I can just see this. Okay. And I laugh about it, but honestly, it's not really funny. That water is acidic as shit, and it's
and it's hot.
280 degrees. Like, you get some of that on you, and you are burning. It is bad.
Well, the one guy that ran away.
Keith just put something up.
Yeah, I just responded to him.
But
the one guy that ran away, all he said was, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
But he was wearing shorts, so I felt for him.
Well, and I was sitting there watching the little YouTube video that they put up of it, and
There's a couple.
all these guys are just sitting there looking at the basin and taking pictures and being like, "Oh, this is so cool," and then it just erupts hardcore
Explosion.
Old Faithful style. Okay.
Yeah,
And
very much faithful
I had
style.
walked into this video when Cole was watching it in the morning, and I went, "Oh, are they at Old Faithful?" And he goes, "No, that's the basin." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I've visited this place a good 5-6 times in my life, and there's never been that kind of activity on the basin. It just doesn't happen. So I was like, "Oh, damn. Like, I think I'd probably have a heart attack trying to run away from that. Going, how big is this gonna be?
Yeah, there have been reports where it was saying, some people were saying that it's been a couple hundred years, and others were saying it's about every 50 to 75. So just depends on who you listen to. But yeah, it's a very rare occurrence. And I can't even fathom to be splattered
well, and, like,
with that
I can
stuff.
tell you that, like, in my lifetime, which realistically is only like 36 years. So, in my lifetime, that's never happened. And I was talking to my mom about it, and she's like, me and Aunt Linda, which is my mom's, one of her older sisters, have never heard of that happening in our lifetimes either. So, I'm looking back, and I'm like, okay, that's at least like 75 years of this never happening.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Just want to say a big welcome to our Keith Andrews.
Hi, Keith.
Hey,
It's been a while.
How we doing, guys?
Hey, bud.
Doing good. Better than
Give me
Peter.
10 seconds, I'll be right with you.
No worries.
Friend, I'm wondering how this affects the wildlife. Like, what have they been doing? You know what I mean?
well, they're so sensitive. Animals are so sensitive to anything.
Any kind of disruptive.
Yeah, it's gotta be creating vibrations and shit in that ground.
Well, you know that over the last couple of years, we've had more earthquakes there than we've had for like 20 years previous to that.
Yeah.
And it's
Correct.
just kind of growing and growing year after year. So it like went from like 100, like small ones. I'm not talking like anything huge, to like 200 to 400 to 500. So you got to think with all of that activity, something had to happen at some point.
Yeah. They're going from a 3.4 on up to a 4.46 or something like that.
Yeah, and that's
So they're
not
starting to
including
get
like the
big.
micro earthquakes that are in there too.
Yeah, exactly.
These
Starting
are
to
ones
get
that
big.
can actually be like totally felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, you know, you disrupt the ground that much and that kind of an area, and eventually something's got to give.
Exactly.
Probably has something to do with the Yellowstone Ranch. Them damn Duttons.
Dude.
I'm just saying.
Hello.
And Kevin Costner.
Damn it, Kevin Costner.
Oh.
This is all your fault.
By the way, did you guys know how much it costs to stay there for a night?
At the Yellowstone Ranch?
Yes.
It's a couple
Not a
hundred,
clue.
a couple thousand. I don't know.
It's $750,000 per night. For one night.
That's ridiculous. I don't care. I don't care if you are like the biggest fan in the
You
entire
get the
world.
entire ranch.
I don't care. Okay? I don't care if you get the entire ranch. What are you going to do? Go ride one of their cows? No.
Right.
Okay? That's
Holy
24
crap.
hours.
Yeah, like
That's 24 hours and an entire house paid off. No, I'm not doing that.
and when it's not
I know.
filming, it's pretty much book solid.
That's insane. Those people are just banking. Okay?
Friend,
They're sitting there, they're like, I don't have to ever raise a cow again.
that is so not true.
No
You know how
kidding.
much
My God.
they're paying to Yellowstone not to take over their land?
Probably quite a bit. Probably
So,
quite a bit.
like, they're not making shit hardly.
That's pretty sad.
Sucks for them.
That's
I'm just saying,
insane.
if I made $750,000 a day, I think we'd be pretty set. We should check out Airbnb rates and see what we could list our house for.
I think less than 5.
I think we'd have to pay a
I
dollar.
would think.
I think so too.
Oh my. Oh my.
We get those wonderful like B&B reviews. Not what I expected at all. the neighbors were loud and obnoxious. I can see it.
Oh, my.
So when we had that big flood that came through, it was, 2022? When we had a giant flood that came through our area. And it flooded out, like, way more than anybody's seen in, like, 50, 60 years. I mean, it was bad. We had to be, airlifted, or not airlifted, but boated out of here. Like, the rescue boats had to come and take us all, and we had to go to safety and then go over to my mom's place.
It took us a block. It wasn't that big
Yeah.
of a deal.
Okay.
But a block in a river can be a very big deal.
So, I'd never seen something like that before. Because, I mean, I'd grown up in, like, Linwood and Bellingham, up in the Highland area. I've, like, never seen, like, this massive flood just come in and completely, like, devour people's houses. It was crazy. Right? So, I remember waking up that morning, and I was the very first person to wake up, and we'd been told there might be a flood coming in, and we'd checked it the night before. We'd gone out to the roads, and it had been a little bit up on the road, and we're like, oh, dude, it's going to stop at that stop sign. We'll be totally fine. This is what's happened in the past.
That is
All
not
right.
how that went. I went out there every hour the night before and checked to the riverside of our street. And every time I checked, it was starting to come up. It started to come up more, starting to come up more. It finally got the road, and then it started going up the post to the stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the night, when I finally said, okay, I'm going to sleep now because it's supposed to be slowing down now, it was at the actual sign on that side. I never thought to check the other side of the street.
Because
that's
it's
in the
not
middle
the
of the
riverside. But it had broken through because these guys had done some landscaping and dug their yard down and taken out the berm that was there.
Oh, my.
So it had come through and poured onto the other side of the street. So it was all the way up our hill and, like, at our back porch at that point.
Wow.
So when I woke up that morning, I went out on the back porch and I'm just, like, looking around. And I'm like, man, all I can see is water. I can't see anything but water. Like, I can't even see our garage. I can't see shit. Like, it's gone. Right? The little portable garage. And we had some neighbors that had just bought the property behind us, and they had been living in an RV at that point. Terrible people, and honestly, it kind of made me laugh. But terrible people, okay? Like, I'd gone over and yelled at them a couple of times for being obnoxious assholes. And I'm standing out on the back porch, and I'm just looking around, and all of a sudden, I can hear the dude in the RV going, "Damn it, did you leave the sink on?" And his wife going, "What's happening?" Okay. And then them crawling out of the RV and climbing up on top of it and going, "Holy crap!" Right?
Our caravans are coming about.
Wow.
I just
That's bad.
seriously remember this dude screaming at his wife that she must have left this sink on because there was water everywhere. And I'm like, how would that even, dude, come on.
The funny part is they were the people using the mattress to get out.
Yes, they grabbed their mattress and they tried to row out on top of their mattress, not thinking that the mattress would get waterlogged and eventually sink. So they made it up to, like, almost the stop sign before the mattress sank, and then it pushed them down the river, like, I can't even remember. It was almost a mile or something.
Good God. Okay, so I used to live in Mount Vernon, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And used to live in the early 80s, used to live right up against the dike. Sorry, the dike where the river, depending upon which curve you lived on, for the Skagit River. And we had times where thank God we lived on the second floor, because the first floor tenants of this 2-building apartment complex basically had to have all of their, I mean, I grew up with this.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you went over the Skagit Bridge, the Mount Vernon Bridge into downtown Mount Vernon, every year around a certain time of the year, that area that they have now made a park that used to be a mobile home park was flooded out every year without fail.
Mm-hmm.
And that's long before they ever put up the emergency retaining walls for downtown Mount Vernon. And so that's what I grew up with. It was neighbor to neighbor. You lend a hand, you did what you had to do. Certain areas were flooded every year without fail. And they finally, after 25, 30 years, finally, more than that, actually, now that I think about it.
Finally put the dike up. I think it finished construction like 2021. Like, I mean, it was a long-term project.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
they've also added the droppable walls.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and like, have you actually seen those when they put them up?
Oh, they're crazy looking.
Like, if the water came up to the third floor in some of those apartments on the east side, they're not getting. Yeah. It's not getting to you.
Now,
those things are tall.
I do know in 2022 when that big flood came through, and I mean it was like 1 in 1,000-year flood that everybody was calling it. It wiped out pretty much all of Hamilton and Lyman area. They actually evacuated the Walmart right off of Riverside because the water was starting to come into the parking lot.
No, the water was going into the building.
And, like, into the building. And so they evacuated that whole area of Riverside at that point. And people were freaking out. Because, I mean, like, this never happens here. Like, you'll get a little bit, or you'll get pools of, but you don't get a river through Walmart.
No, you don't.
And, I mean, it was bad. It was bad that year. And that was with the new dike system that they'd put in and the drop-down retaining walls and everything. It still was starting to flood, like, about 1.5 foot into Walmart there.
Well, think about how bad it would have been if they didn't have any of that wall up.
Abso-freaking-lutely. It would have been terrible.
I mean,
all of that area would have been gone.
Yeah, downtown Mount Vernon would have been gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would have been just completely wiped out because in downtown Mount Vernon, you've got the river, and then you've got a parking lot that's butted up against the river, and then you've got the buildings. Those buildings are, when you walk from the parking lot to one of those buildings, that's the second story of that building.
Well, and I remember
and it goes down a hill, which would have wiped out. It probably would have gone.
We were supposed to, flooding stage is 28 feet here. And we were at 39.
Ooh.
That particular year.
There is a certain gentleman in Mount Vernon, Burlington, who is trying to build his own berm over the years. And he's doing a great job. He has crashed 3 small planes into the river right beside Walmart.
He has. Same dude. Okay? In the same area.
Wait a minute. What?
He keeps crashing his planes into the river and leaving them.
Yeah, okay. So he is a pilot for, like, little Cessnas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the worst pilot ever because he can't seem to ever get over the berm in Mount Vernon. He just smashes into it. So there's like 3-4 planes that are just like smashed into the side of that berm and like half in the water from this dude.
I think he's just having the same issue we all have. He can't find a fucking parking spot at Walmart. So he made himself one.
Oh my God, Cole.
No, last weekend, me and Cole and Kimberly, our daughter, were down at the Skagit River. We were doing a little bit of fishing because we were like, whatever. We have nothing else to do. So we went down, we took our chairs, and we did some fishing. And I totally had forgotten that it was the concrete fly-in at that point. So there's, all of a sudden, we're just hearing all of these motors and motors and motors, and we're like, what the fuck? I'm looking up in the sky, and you can just see all of these, like, old-style planes and everything, like, flying right over top of us and almost into the water, and I'm like, dude, this is a cooler view than at the actual airport. I like this.
The weird part about that, though, is 4 days before that, we were doing something at my mother-in-law's house, and 4 C-130s, I think they're called, military transport planes.
Oh, dude, they were just flying low, over top of the trees.
They hit the trees.
They were over top of the trees. I don't know what the fuck they were doing or where they were going, but they were there.
Whitby, according to that air traffic app.
They were going to Whitby?
They were going to Whitby.
Well, then they're in the wrong area.
No, they were flying through the valley to get there, which a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
But never that low. That was the part that was
No,
weird.
it was really weird. Like, they were touching the tops of the trees. Like, you could feel it in your body, and you could see every bit of that plane. It was the weirdest thing.
And we still have no idea why they were that low.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So.
Well, at first, me and my mom were out on, like, the back porch, and at first we were like, oh, they must be going to put out the fire that's, like, right over next to us. It's not too far. It's just past Rockport, like, area. And we were like, oh, okay, well, they must be going to put out the fire. And then we looked up and we're like, those are the wrong kind of planes to be putting out anything. Like, where did these military-grade fucking planes come from? And where are they going, and why are they so low? Like, it felt like they were going to crash into the backyard. They were that low.
Well, Kayla and her mom said that about them putting out the fires, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not that, because they usually don't put lights right behind where they're going to drop the water from in the plane.
Yeah, it was just really super
bizarre. Because all the regular flashing lights are underneath on those ones.
Yeah, that's true.
So they really usually, like, they'll take those off or put them on the wings.
Mm-hmm.
How long ago was this?
What, a week ago? Maybe?
Yeah, it would have been like Thursday, I think.
Yeah. Last Thursday?
Well, that's interesting.
Why?
Where did it say it was flying from? Not to, from.
It didn't say from, but it told us where to, and it was
the app only gave where they were going.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it didn't say where it left from. It just said they were going to the naval base.
Which kind of makes me wonder if they're coming from Idaho.
That's what I was wondering. And why fly that low? I mean, that low is under radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a super weird scenario. We were like,
very
what
strange.
The fuck is going on?
According to Facebook, in its wonderful glory, they did that all the way through to Mount Vernon. Like, they didn't come up. So, because there was reports all like
they were flying that low all the way through the city until they landed.
Which leads to the question: how many were there? There were 2?
4.
4 of them
in a diamond formation.
Yeah, that makes me wonder as to what the hell was actually taking place. Flying that low, and how old were they? That's the other thing.
They
weren't that old. They were like newer models.
Okay. Wow, that is some
And I was
messed
like,
up
that
stuff.
is some weird shit. Like, what is going on?
I wonder if they were testing something.
It's a possibility.
Probably.
Like, I wonder, honestly, how low you have to go in this valley to get under Jim Creek's radar.
Well, and if they're flying in a diamond formation, that creates, those are big planes. That creates a very large wingspan between the ends of the diamond.
Right.
I've got some questions. It goes into conspiracy theory stuff, but it's question.
Right, and that was my thing is I was like, what are you playing at? What's going on here? Like, that's not normal. That's not normal at all.
No.
And I mean, like, you could feel every bit of the rumble of those engines.
Oh, yeah.
Every
They're
part
big.
of you. Like, it was like shaking the windows and shaking the house and shaking the floor. And it was like, holy crap. Like, it felt like a 2.3 earthquake when they all came by.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's super weird.
Fascinating. I don't even want to speculate on air, but boy, do I have questions about that.
I'm starting to like conspiracy again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's getting interesting again, because, like, there's new ones popping up that I absolutely love. Like, the one I saw today.
Oh, God.
Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Friend, she's a robot.
Kamala Harris is a robot.
But they ran out of parts, so they put the chip for a Tickle Me Elmo in her. That's why she giggles all the time. I was like, damn.
That's bad.
Actually, weirdly enough, like, okay, so I don't subscribe or listen much to, like, the whole Joe Rogan broadcast
Yeah,
thing.
I don't normally do that.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't at all. But this new kid that I got at work is like, that's like his hero. So he like listens to all of his broadcasts and everything.
No!
And he's like, yeah, I know.
Show him the definition of hero.
And like I said,
That's
this kid's like 18 and he's like brand new to the world and he's like, yeah, Joe Rogan said, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, buddy, you gotta like do your research on this stuff. You can't just come up with me saying Joe Rogan said and expect me to be okay with everything you are saying.
That's why for me to post anything about him, the fact that you've got two people in ufology who are, because he has a large audience, is the only real reason why I posted what I did, because I hate posting his shit.
Right. He's so awkward and like, I don't know how to even explain that. But, so this kid tells me that on the last Joe Rogan that he was listening to, that he was talking about, oh God, what was it? Biden, okay, on his last broadcast. And he had pictures and everything, and he was like, the reason that Biden, like, dropped out of the race is because he's an AI now, because he died, and because now, like, all this shit. And he's like, look at his hands, and he's walking better, and he's talking better, and it's because he's a computer-generated... Okay, and I was like, whoa, just stop, bud. Just stop. Do you really honestly think this? Or did you just hear it on a popular broadcast, and you decided that must be the truth because that's what he's telling you? He goes, I don't know, man. I've looked at his hands. They looked way younger. And I'm like, okay. It was like almost painful for me to listen to this poor kid who's like just 18 going on 19 talking about all of this. Oh man, I don't know. Joe Rogan told me. And I was like, oh my God, stop. You need to do your own shit,
did
your
Joe
own
Rogan
research.
say look at the hands, or did the kid?
Joe Rogan. told them to look at his hands because of the picture that he had. And he
then
said
did
his
the
hands
kid?
were like super young. And the kid was like, oh man, his hands were like super young. I don't know. Old people have more wrinkles. And I was like, oh
So
God,
is
okay.
Is this the new fetish? Or
I guess.
in political hands? Robert.
Robert's showing a bottle of Cetaphil, which is a hand cream or body lotion. That's
I
funny.
couldn't believe that shit. I was like, oh, kid, buddy. Like, I don't even know how to tell you you're wrong without telling you you're wrong. But maybe do some research on your own. Like, don't just listen to Joe Rogan and think that the president's a robot. That would be great. Cool.
Ugh. Okay,
All right,
so tonight's
yeah, let's get up to our topic.
Yes, let's do that.
Whoop this shit. But
I think some of the spirits around me would appreciate that because they were throwing little hissy fits about the kid who was believing the
Right? And
Yeah.
I was too. I couldn't believe that shit. It came out of his mouth and I'm like, oh, damn.
Give that kid a Gib slap.
Like, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say to you right now.
I do. Get back to work.
Yeah.
Like, you're his boss.
Right? It made me seriously think about my hiring practices. I'll put it that way. Okay. All right.
So, all right. Tonight we were talking about psychic misconceptions that psychics have to deal with. Not just the well-known ones, because those, like, here's the problem I have. Those get swept under the rug right away by everyone when this comes up. Because they're so mainstream already.
Okay, can you give us an example of what you're talking about?
So, like, believing that everyone is just a Miss Cleo. Friend.
Okay, so you're talking, like, more the money thing and the, like, fake prophecy.
Yeah, just taking money on it over a telephone for $20 per minute to tell you whether you're going to break up with someone in the next 50 years.
Okay, so very generalized psychic activity.
Yes, and,
that
well,
anybody...
not just generalized, but also, like, actual psychics are getting lumped in with fakes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
But, you know,
problem.
that's been a thing since, like, the beginning of time. You've had the true psychics, and you've had people that have tried to fake it so that they could either stay alive or give messages to certain kings to try to change the outcomes of stuff. Like, that's been around since, like, Greek and Roman times. I mean...
But that's why I would like if you guys could give us some examples of the outrageous shit that you've heard from people. Don't roll your eyes at me, Nikki. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Robert, did you want to take that for a moment? No, he's shaking his head no. Well, yeah, I was rolling my eyes because I've heard it all. There are expectations with people with psychics, and they're very unrealistic. People, the general population is how I should phrase that. The general public, I've heard everything from, well, you're a psychic, you should frickin' know. And it doesn't work like that. It's extremely frustrating because every psychic has their own abilities. And they can receive similar or they can receive completely different. And most people receive not completely different, but different on vast levels, and it's very frustrating to me when you run across someone and they're very much generalized regarding what their expectations are. I've I've been told everything and called everything because I'm not one where I'm a psychic on what I call a psychic on demand. I'm one where I need to talk to you, and I got to talk to you a little bit, and then all of a sudden it starts flowing. Sometimes that's just about how I personally receive, and I've got friends that are like psychics on demand. I mean, they can tell you right off the frickin' bat. That's great. That works for them. Doesn't work for me, though. And then there are folks to where they know things before situations are going to happen, but they never know when or how or so it's
just like little bits and pieces that come to you.
Yeah.
But you aren't 100% sure of the time frame.
Yeah. And mediumship is a different ballgame. So you get a wide range of people because the second they see the word psychic or medium, they're expecting you to know everything under the sun. Every aspect of life, every aspect of the solar system and astrology, and it
doesn't work that way.
It does not work like that at all. We are so varied and vast, just like each individual is unique.
Right.
And so it's
I
people
have
just
a lot of friends who have different abilities. Okay, not 100% psychic, but have different abilities. Okay, and the biggest question that they get asked on a regular is, well, then why aren't you rich? Why didn't you win the lotto? Why didn't you know what the numbers were? And they're like, dude, it doesn't work like that. And trying to explain why it doesn't work like that is almost impossible to somebody who doesn't have any abilities.
On the astrology one, Nikki, I have an answer for you that you can start giving people. I can tell you anything about Uranus. 90% of people will shut up. The 10% that won't, you say, it's going to sound kind of corny, but, friend, it's a little dirty down there. It's a little brown, friend, but there is some gray. Friend.
And I've heard that there's even Klingons.
Right.
Well, somebody over here thought that was funny. I'm like, oh my. I would. No, that's not me. No. I'm curious as to what our Keith Andrews has to say on that.
But I am just surprised at the amount that they expect everybody to know.
The problem is that 80 to 85% of what any of us pick up can be explained through logic or life experience. I can usually explain where it comes from. Problem is that trying to explain in detail, just to be clear, I've got no video at this point. My computer decided to glitch and I can't see anybody. But try that again.
I said I've been there.
Yeah, it's quite all right. We're the only ones that can see people on in the Skype thing. On the Discord, they can't see us talking or anything like that, so it's okay.
Oh, now we got your back. Anyway. No, computers and I do not get along. But no, the biggest problem that we have, first and foremost, in my experience, everybody literally is born psychic. We all have a rudimentary sixth sense. It's just some of us have learned how to rely on it. But you are right. Most of the readers out there talk in extreme generalities, but here's the kicker. Most of the questions that people ask fall under those same categories. You know,
Mm-hmm.
You take 1 million people and ask them to walk down a set of stairs. Pretty much 1 million are going to walk down the stairs in the same fashion. Right. You might get a little bit of a swap. One goes right foot, one goes left foot. But it's not like we have, what I used to tell people, and I'm getting back into the public reading again. But what I used to tell people all the time when they say something like, well, why don't you know that? You're psychic. I look at them and go, yep, I'm psychic, not God.
That's a great answer, Keith.
Yeah, that is.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. Right on.
The other way of looking at it is they ask you a question like that and they go, well, why don't you know the answer? Okay, why are you calling me? Because apparently you don't know the answer either. But here's the kicker with the lotto. When we look at a person's individual life, it's one person that's making their own mind up. When you're looking at figuring out a lottery number, you're looking at a bare minimum of 2,000 people with their own energy being put into that machine. And to figure out which one is going to take dominant control over the drop of the machine is a bit of a hiccup.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, that's the problem you've got with winning lottery numbers.
Well, and
Well, and there's still something to be said about chance. Because even if you see something thoroughly and you see it through, it doesn't mean that something can't change to make it different in the future.
Very much the case.
And that's shifting timelines.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
No, it isn't. That's where you really, and I run into a problem with that. We've got one timeline we work with. Now, do not get me wrong. I'm not debating whether other timelines exist. But we've only got one we deal with.
What I meant by timeline is how do I express this? I guess I use the phrase or the term timeline in regards to a shift or a change in our future.
See,
So
I've always thought
what
of it as,
happens?
like, the infinite possibility thing, where anything and everything that's possible will be and is. So if you see something as a whole and you see an outcome based off of one decision that somebody made 6, 7, 8 months ago or more, well, if they didn't make that decision, then in the end, the outcome is never going to be the same because
Correct.
they weren't able to make the connections that they needed to make that outcome the same. So I think of it as more like infinite possibilities versus timelines.
So what you're saying
and-
is, I'm not fat. I just haven't made a decision yet.
Well, you made a decision the second you picked up that first Twinkie.
God damn it.
Okay.
Fucking Twinkies.
In that statistic bound.
The intriguing part of it is this. Time itself, people have told me all along, time's an illusion. Time's not an illusion, but the fact is, and I call it fact because I've been here long enough, the future is not written. So when I start looking at a reading for somebody, I go, if everything stays on the path it's on, here's the outcome.
Yes.
If it doesn't stay on that path, it won't be the same outcome.
Yes.
Right, and it might not even be you that takes it off of that path. It might be the random person that you were supposed to meet at some point in time in the future that doesn't end up being there because of the decisions that they made that completely takes you off of that path. There are so many possibilities.
I mean, realistically, like I said, 80 to 85% of what I do, I can explain.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get a call from somebody, I got a call, of course, I'm up in Kelowna. I got a call from somebody in Vancouver, BC one day. And they asked me, they were in a panic. I'd never spoken to them before. And they were in a panic. They'd lost their passport. And she goes, I've got to get across the border in an hour, and I can't find my passport. I never thought about it. I just said, well, you look in the wrong direction. She goes, what do you mean? I said, you're standing in your office looking at the desk. She goes, yeah. I said, well, turn around. You're looking in the wrong direction. So she turns around and I says, okay, you see the bookshelf in front of you? She goes, yeah. I said, second top shelf where you see all the files sticking horizontally out. Yeah. I said, count in between number 4 and number 5. Right from the left. Well, she rifles through it and pops up and goes, oh my gosh, it's my wallet. It's my passport. How did you do that? I said, you got 20 minutes to get across the border. Something like that, I find it difficult to call a lucky guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at that point, I wouldn't be worrying about the how you did it. I'd be worrying about getting across now.
Well, that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
You run into people that do that regularly, where you tell them something and now they want to know how.
Right.
Well, let's face it, I'm going to have a little bit of a problem explaining the subquantum impact.
Mm-hmm.
And are they actually going to be able to understand?
Not a prayer.
No, not a chance for most people.
Or willing to believe.
People. Yeah.
That's the stupid part. That is almost every sector of employment. Although, this isn't really employment for you guys. That's not how I want to put that. But do you know what I mean? A mechanic, friend, a guy wants to know how you fixed his brakes in that amount of time. Well, because I didn't stand here fucking telling you how.
I just did it. Yeah.
And yet I've had to tell mechanics what was wrong with the car. I still can't fix it. But I can tell you what's wrong with it.
Well, and a lot of people that I know that have either slight or quite a bit of psychic ability will even tell you themselves, hey man, I'm only 60% accurate. There's always this 40% chance that this is not going to happen. And they'll be upfront with you about it too. And different people have different varying levels of what they say their accuracy is at. But pretty much everyone that I've ever talked to that says that in any way, shape, or form they're somewhat psychic will be like, dude, there's a 10% chance. There's a 50% chance. I have about a 60% chance. They aren't definite with their answers at all.
I could never tell you what my percentage was. I could tell you when I was working online for so long, because we tracked what type of calls came in, I could tell you legitimately for 20 years, 75% of my calls were coming from people I'd either talked to before or from people they referred.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's because I wrote down not what everything was that we talked about, but that they'd call back. Mm-hmm. But I love the ones that call back going, nothing you ever told that you have ever said to me has panned out. I'd like to get a reading. Mm-hmm. And my immediate reaction is, why are you talking to me? If I'm that bad, why are you bothering with me?
Yeah.
Right.
The other really big misconception I find that a lot of the general people have is that it doesn't bother the psychic themselves when you start telling them they're full of it.
Uh-huh.
We're going out on a limb going, okay, we're a little twisted, we're a little weird, but you're asking for insight. Now you're going to sit here and insult me.
Yeah. Or the other thing is they expect it to be immediate. So you'll be like, something is going to happen potentially to you, and they'll expect, well, it's the next day. Why didn't it happen? They said it was going to happen. Well, it could be 2 years from now. It could be 6 months from now. It isn't immediate.
And that's where the psychic is making the mistake. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the rare ones, quite frankly, that you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer, and I'll try and figure out where it came from. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I do work on very much an immediate level. I won't give you a definitive in 2 hours, usually. Once in a while, I'll get a nightmare for a poor person and give them a time frame. Right? But most of the time, it's like, this is the outcome. Can I give you a date? Can I give you a time? No, but I can tell you most of what I see happen is within 3 to 4 months. What I'm looking at right now is long range.
Right.
See, like, I have never actually went to someone for an actual reading. Like, we called the Miss Cleo line because we thought that was fucking hilarious because we got a guy. But, and...
I'd have been real tempted to hang up.
Huh?
I said, I'd have been real tempted to hang up, and mind you, in all fairness, I have a tendency of following my temptations.
Yeah, but like, I've always been the type that if someone tells me something is going to happen, I tend to try and make it not happen.
Well, that explains why you're not lottery.
Sometimes, like, you can't do it.
Sometimes it'll happen anyway.
Yeah, sometimes, like, there's some things in life that they just have to happen. But, like, I'm always the guy who can't be told what he can and can't do. So, I've never saw the point in asking any of you what's going to happen in my personal life. Because I really don't want to know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there is something to be said about, about surprise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It makes life interesting.
Well,
yes, it does.
It's kind of like that old thing, like, if you knew when and how you were going to die, would you want to know? And a lot of people are, oh yeah, I'd absolutely want to know because I'd try to stop it or I'd try to whatever. There's no way in hell I'd want to know the answer to that. I wouldn't want somebody to tell me this is how you're going to die and this is the day you're going to do it. Like,
I've already had fun.
No.
Oh yeah, I've already had, heck, the doctors told and actually diagnosed me dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, physically diagnosed me dead and shipped me off to the morgue. I didn't agree, so I left.
Right on.
And like the other side of it, where people like you, Nikki, who can talk to loved ones, to me, their time on this planet is supposed to be done. They're on to the next adventure. When it's my time, I will join them. Until then, I don't need to know what they're up to. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
oh yeah, very definitely. And here's the other little kicker. People forget when they go, I want to talk to this loved one. Most of them don't even consider, does that loved one want to talk to you?
Yeah.
Bingo. Bingo.
Are they in the bath? Are they in the toilet? You never know.
I have no idea what happens in this next life. Friend, what if my grandpa is just kind of doing it over again and he's a farmer? If I interrupt him, he's going to whoop my ass. Friend, like, no thanks.
They'll send you off to get eggs from the chickens.
Damn it, I was dealing with my crops. What do you want?
Friend,
yeah.
I'm Mama John Deere. Leave me alone.
That for me comes down to not religious belief, but personal belief. I don't know where they are, but I know they're okay. That is all I need.
Yeah, I get a little twisted on that one because having been over so often, it's not a religious belief. It's a personal. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And every time I've gone, it's been the same thing. And I mean every time this lifetime, not the next one.
Right.
Not past lives.
Yeah.
On Sunday. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just agreeing.
On Sunday, I was at a celebration of life for a friend who had passed in May.
Sorry for your loss, Nikki.
And thank you. And excuse me, Keith?
I said condolences to those left behind.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my feeling exactly because, well, anyway, my point was that on Sunday I had an experience that I've never experienced before, and the gentleman had remarried. That wasn't it. But his previous wife, they were together since age 14. I think, if I'm not mistaken, married at 17. It's been a long. I knew this couple. She died 6 years previously, and then he died in May, and they did the celebration of life last Sunday. And he came for his kids, his adult kid. He's got 3 adult kids. And she showed up to be there with their kids. And he was also there for his current wife. And I got to see something between the two of them that I've never seen before. And I'm not going to divulge what it is publicly, but it was truly absolutely beautiful, and it completely overwhelmed me. And it was between the two of them before they parted each other and kind of went their separate ways, so to speak. And I got to see them with their grandbabies and with him with his current wife and how he was around her, and it was true. It was different than what I've seen from previous funerals and other celebration of life experiences that people have done for their loved ones who've died. And it was absolutely amazing. It really opened my eyes to love regarding these two souls and regarding how I don't know how else to say this. Maybe Keith can, I don't know, but they literally showed themselves with their adult children as they were before they passed. But when they came together later in the day, for this one special 2.5 minutes, together, they looked like they were in their 30s. And then when they separated, they went back into essentially the time frame of before they passed. And I was like, wow, okay, it was very enlightening. It was very eye-opening, and the whole day was completely about love. And it was a beautiful experience.
Now, the only question I got for you is, what part of that do you feel could be explained better? Because can I? The answer is yes. And give you a full breakdown for how that works. What I don't know is what you're not entirely aware of.
Well, I knew that they would come together, but I didn't expect them to come together with the kids the way they did, and then later on, at the age when they died.
Right.
Slightly, I expected maybe a little bit younger, but essentially when I psychically, visually saw them, they were maybe a year or two slightly younger. That I kind of expected. What I didn't expect was to see them a couple of hours later come together away from everybody else, do something specific to them that I didn't even know that they did in regular life. And they appeared to be in their 30s. And I'm like, I know that they can shift how they look on the other side, but it felt like the way I was shown, I was allowed to see this. I know that. I didn't see them walking around the entire day. But the kind of energy that I saw, I mean, I was just so blown away. It was like being, I don't want to say singled out. That's not the right word or right phrase, but I was allowed to see this.
Well,
And it was a truly beautiful moment between the two of them.
you do remember that being in love does make people feel younger.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that.
That would be the how, and the why for that matter.
Yeah.
When they came together at that point, they were going back to the way they were. When you first tapped into it, it was within a couple of years because that was about the state they were in. But more often than not, when somebody passes over, they revert back to an appearance that they were comfortable with.
Well, and
and I understand that.
in the way I've always seen it, like with their kids, their grandkids, the second wife, all of that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So everybody talks about having soul mates, right? Like somebody that you're supposed to be with, somebody that's energy works off your energy, everything else. I've never believed in soul mates. Me personally, I believe in like soul circles. Okay, so it's not just one person, it's several people who are supposed to impact your life in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, you can have giant soul circles. And
Well, we gotta just give you a little bit of a different perspective on that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, we take the word should and throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, there is a massive misconception on what a soulmate is and how they get around you.
Yeah.
But the idea of soulmate, twin flame, soul family, all of that is very real. But there is actually one soulmate. The problem is that until, as an individual, you've collected all the parts of your soul before you, the little bits and pieces that make up the whole, until you both have reached that point, then and only then will you draw the actual soulmate to you. But the soulmate is not the person on earth. Those, in my experience, are life mates. And those you got 5 or 6 different options on.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's, I guess, where I was kind of going with that, where there's, like, several people in your circle, whether it's, like, full soulmates or, like, life mates or whatever you want to call. There's people in your circle that you seem to meet up with, not only in this life, but in previous lives as well, that are just an intricate part of your life. Because
absolutely.
You, like, found each other somehow between, like, these weird red lines of connection or whatever you want to call it, where you always seem to meet that person in some form.
Well, think of cell division. Okay. The original spirits split in two, and then they split into, etc., etc.
Right.
Okay. And when you first split in two, that's your soulmate, all the way down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you take the first soulmate, they split in two. Then you've got the two on either side of that division are your twin flame.
Okay.
Okay. Everything below that becomes soul family.
Okay. Yeah, and see, I guess that's what I was talking about more so, was like soul family, where you have a weird connection with... It's like that random person that you run into, and for some reason you have a weird connection with them. They end up becoming a really good friend, and you have no idea how you lived life like before that person type thing. Okay, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a
job,
whatever it is, but it's that random person that enters your life that for some reason you feel like they've filled a huge void that you don't know how you lived without that void being filled at some point before.
You know, that actually is one of the big things is that made me very thankful that I don't have some of your guys' abilities. Like, Nikki, if I could talk to spirits, it could end up being a real issue at friends' funerals. Because I could imagine them coming back and fucking with me during the funeral, so I look like an asshole to their entire family.
Yeah, but they don't have that kind of drive anymore.
Yeah.
No. I went to an open casket funeral one day. A friend asked me to go for moral support. Right, for emotional support. This was a guy that we used to be around each other 5 to 6 days a week. So, of course, we went to the open casket. And my friend looked at me after the ceremony. She goes, You don't seem to be, you don't seem upset, Keith. She goes, he's gone. I said, he's not gone. He's sitting over there on the back of the pew.
Right on.
She just looks at me and goes, of all the people I brought for moral support, I had to pick you.
Oh, man. Ouch. Yikes.
But I mean, like, Nikki, you constantly have them chattering into your ear during the show.
Yeah. Yeah. There are times where they don't shut the hell up.
I have a few friends that all they have to do is talk to me, and I can't stop laughing. Laughing is not an appropriate funeral thing.
Well, okay, I'm sorry, Keith, go ahead.
I said, no, all I said was, no, it's not really appropriate.
No, it's not. I had... Well, there are times, but yeah, but at the same point, so I had a girlfriend die a number of years ago, and there were 3 of us who were kind of like we used to laughingly call us the 3 Musketeers periodically. Once in a blue moon, we would call us the 3 Musketeers, and so it was me and the other girlfriend. She was sitting next to me, and it was a packed house in the church that day. I mean, it was overflowing. And so we were towards the back, and she found me, and she came and sat next to me. And the next thing I know, our deceased friend came and grabbed hold of the 2 of us, and I turned and I looked at my friend and I said, she's here. And she goes, I know, that's not you I'm feeling. And I went, no, it's not. And then I got to hear, they had everybody stand and sing, and she literally grabbed each one of our hands and was singing and standing between the 2 of us. I don't know quite. It was almost like she had wrapped her arms around us at the same time, but yet we each felt her hand in our. So her hand was on my right hand, but for my friend, her hand was on her left. The other friend was on the left. And so, but yet we both felt like we had an arm around our shoulders, and I could hear her singing between the 2 of us. It was beautiful, because I'd forgotten how beautiful of a voice she had. And then you've got moments like that, and everybody's bawling anyway, so I was just like, okay, that's it. The tears just started flowing.
Okay.
The one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, the one thing that I find frustrating with many of the readers I've talked to. Now, I personally prefer the term sensitive as compared to psychic. Psychics have way too many negative connotations. But the thing that always causes me a real red light concern is when a reader says, when somebody says, how do you cope with it? And the reader looks at the person and goes, oh, I just shut it off.
No.
And would that I could.
Sorry.
But that's kind of like telling you, saying, oh, okay, you've got two eyes, you're just going to stop seeing out of them.
Exactly.
You know,
Well,
that's a red light on the reader.
I'm gonna make a statement to that because I found out the hard way that when you have some kind of traumatic experience, I agree with you, Keith, I'm not disagreeing, but I am going to make a statement because in an experience that I had, I literally shut mine down because, well, not down, but like a huge percentage down because of a traumatic experience. Mm-hmm. And I was absolutely floored that when certain things started happening in my life a couple of years after that, everything kind of re-exploded for me.
To me, that makes sense. But now you're talking about mental trauma, which will shut the ability down, but that's not you going, I don't want to see anymore.
Exactly. I literally...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it literally started stifling the ability.
It would.
Yeah. From the traumatic experience, and then it started to open back up again, and wow, when it opened up, it went whoosh. It was like a gigantic explosion.
I had a friend that deliberately shut hers down. I warned her not to do it. Oh, she was psychokinetic. And she bottled it to the point that she literally didn't have any experience for 4 years, which worked out great. Got married, had a kid. Then her ability kicked back into gear. Just the dam broke.
Yeah.
And she went from being a psychokinetic to an active pyrokinetic.
Woo, honey. Oh my gosh.
Cost her a marriage, not her family. It didn't cost her life, but it cost her a marriage.
Right.
She's fortunate that it didn't cost her life. Holy cow.
I used to know somebody.
Wow.
I don't really talk to them much anymore, but they definitely had some abilities. But they desperately tried to shut him out in any way, shape, or form that they could. Like, including heavy drinking, drug use, everything. Yeah. To try to make it so that they didn't have the abilities that they had. Because they were scared of them, honestly.
I'm betting that didn't work out all that well for them.
No, actually it ended up being a really tragic story and ended up with in suicide. But
well, that's a nice way to mess things up.
Yeah, but you can't,
especially if it doesn't work. But
you can't take a piece of yourself and try to rip it out, no matter whether you like that piece or not, no matter how you feel about that piece. It's still part of you, and you need to accept the parts of you and try to figure out a way to deal with them versus trying to desperately push them aside and be what's known as normal, I guess.
Ironically, this is what I'm trying to teach people about their own lives. Psychics just have an extra sense, or an extra two.
Define normal.
Oh, that's the easy part. That's what everybody else is.
Yeah, exactly. So both Robert and I know somebody to where this individual would drink and smoke pot to stop having certain feelings and their abilities. And every time that they do it, or almost every time, not every single time, but almost quite often, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. This person would open themselves up to entities and spirits controlling their body, and it can be viewed on video.
Now, here's an odd question. Do you know why that happened?
The individual doesn't want to be doing things anymore.
Taken over.
I was referring to why she was drinking. I was referring to why she triggered it.
Because she's lowered her defenses with all the alcohol and drugs.
Bingo.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And rest assured, I mean, I used to kill a 26 in a night and do 6 lines at a time at the same time. Didn't do a thing to shut my senses down.
No,
it just makes it worse.
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, my mouth was still in hyperdrive at the same time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, people do all kinds of crazy shit in their lives to try to escape from realities, whether their psychic abilities or just some form of trauma that's happened in their life. Like, people will do all kinds of
or even just everyday stress.
Abuse. Yes,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. But in the end, none of it ever really works. It might mask it for a minute, but you're gonna end up just as fucked up with a hangover the next day.
So
like,
if
it's
you
just
need to mask it, like if you need to just walk away for a minute, I understand with how do you want me to term this? Sensitives? Like, is that what I would say?
The term I like is sensitive because what we do, we are simply sensitive to more energies.
But when I'm talking about the three of you, I would use it as a plural, right?
As a which?
The plural term, sensitive.
As a plural, yes.
Okay, so for sensitives, you don't, like, even if you did something healthy for it, you still can't block it out.
No, you can't.
If you're trying to do, like, block out everyday stress and sometimes even some trauma with certain activities, find a healthy one.
What we tend to do is we choose what we're going to focus on.
Yeah.
Just like you do.
Yep.
okay.
Like, for me, for everyday stresses, it is video games. I can walk into a game of Call of Duty, kill 36 people in about an hour, and I'm good to go. Like, I'm happy again.
I do that with D&D.
Yeah.
Call of Duty, I get agitated and blow the machine up. And I don't mean I do it intentionally. It happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has to have their stress reliefs, no matter what's going on in life. Whether it's, some people read books, some people escape into video games or RPG games, or like you were saying, D&D games, or they go and take a cold shower, they go and take a hot shower, they go sit in the bathtub, whatever it is that makes it so that they are leveled out again.
Yeah, cold shower for me that's a good heart attack.
Yeah. That's the thing. You have to find our keys are going to break Nikki. Fred, but that's the thing. You can't try and help your mental side by doing something that hurts either your physical side or your emotional side.
No, it will backfire.
Yeah, like you can't do that in any way. You can't try and fix your physical side by hurting your mental side. It doesn't work no matter how you do it.
And, like, sadly, it might work for a couple of days, or it might work for a week or something like that as, like, a suppressant or whatever. But in the end, you're just going to end up completely fucking yourself over.
Like, I do drink, but I do it for taste, and if I have too much, which now because of not drinking for so many years,
and health issues.
Too much can be 3. So, but like, I find something I really like to the taste of, and then I have a few of them, and it's not.
Cole talking about a few of them, he has like 2 drinks a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe more now that I found that cider.
Yeah,
I really like that shit. But I cannot drink if I'm upset. I can't drink if I'm mad. I can't drink if something's going on. I have to be happy. Life has to be going well, and then I can have a drink. Otherwise,
see, I can't if I'm walking.
Huh?
I said, see, I can't drink if I'm walking.
Well, yeah, that's probably a good idea, Keith. At that point, I'd probably stay away for a minute if I was in your situation.
Well, I'm not walking. I still drink.
But no, the biggest misconception I find that most people seem to have is that psychics are above, that we're beyond the mundane problems.
Mm-hmm. Hell no. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't understand why people would think that. Like, don't get me wrong.
Well, I just about answered, but that would have been derogatory.
Don't get me wrong. I truly believe that your guys' abilities do make you special. Right? And not in the bus sort of way, but like in you are special people.
Hey,
They're special.
in there.
They got their special.
No, like,
God.
But no, the thing is, in my opinion, we're not special. We're just different. But then
Yes.
for you.
well, but that's the thing. That, like, to me, everyone has something that makes them special.
Yeah.
Human beings are special,
Exactly.
friend. But that is one of your guys' things that makes you who you are. It makes you special. It makes you different from everyone else.
Well, it's like a friend of mine told me one day. You know, certainly, I've got these abilities. He says, everybody has abilities. And like he says, I can build anything. I couldn't do what Keith does. I'll be danged if I'm going to give Keith a hammer.
Oh dear.
So, if I ever drive a nail straight, it was an accident.
Well, yeah, and like there's a lot of people like that with different things. Like when John was younger, about a year ago, I think, maybe 2 years ago now, he wanted to be a psychologist, like a therapist. And I looked at him and I'm like, buddy, you have my sense of humor. You are going to send more people to the grave than any other therapist in the world. Like,
Not
you're gonna help
necessarily
more
there.
people- Well, friend.
Hey,
You know,
what do they say about graveyards? They're dying to get in.
oh yeah, and being as I used to be a mortician, well, I used to be a lot of things, but no, the reality is, you've talked to me before, Cole, for a number of years now,
Yeah.
and about 65% of what I do is standard counseling. That's all it is. Heck, I had a suicide caller call me up one day, and she goes, I'm so depressed, I've tried committing suicide 4 times. I said, gosh, I'd be depressed too.
Yeah. Like,
And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you tried committing suicide 4 times, you can't do that right either. I said, that's just plain depressing. I said, find a different hobby.
Right.
6 weeks later, she phoned me back and thanked me for talking her into killing herself.
you broke down.
And there goes Nikki's camera.
Sorry.
Like,
Sorry. Laughing at inappropriate times.
the funny part is, John, so he came home the one day after telling us this for quite a while,
Oh dear.
and he was like, one of my friends came up to me and started talking to me about her problems.
Oh dear.
I don't think I should be a psychologist because I really didn't give a shit. And I'm like, well, yeah,
Oh.
that's probably number one. Maybe kind of half of a little bit.
That's the stupid part. Most psychologists don't care. They're there because they're getting paid for it.
Right.
It's a rare one that actually gives a flying flock.
And again, I don't think those ones last that for long because they're the empathics.
No, burnout. Burnout.
Yeah.
And you can't take on that many people's trauma and everyday issues.
Still be okay with your own life.
Yeah, and survive. Can't do it.
Yeah, I definitely won't say I'm okay with my own life. I've been doing it for 47 years now. 37, sorry, because I've professionally. I've been doing it for 37. I started in 1986, generating an income with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you would not believe the number of people. I worked out what my client base is now. It's well over 100,000 clients.
Good for you.
But again, Keith,
Really.
like you said, you're different.
Oh, I am.
And so, and that's the thing. You have, honestly, in my opinion, expanded your mind and your emotional level, so you are able to take on other people's stuff a lot more than most would be able to.
Ultimately, yes. There's no doubt. I mean, I'm an oddity. That much I know. You know, but the reality is when you take a look at the people out there, the biggest misconception they run into, well, the biggest two, is one, psychics aren't affected by what's going on around them. And number two, we're supposed to know everything.
Yeah, well, and like with John, reason number two he can't be a psychologist is it's too on the nose. Because almost every serial killer is a psychologist at some point. So
hey, I gotta follow the line.
Stop it.
We all know where he's going with that. Right?
Yeah, but so
Have you got, yeah.
the best next job to be a serial killer, a cop.
Yeah.
I was going to say, following the line is not necessarily a good statement for me. I used to do 6 a night.
Oh.
Friend.
Yeah.
You and me both, buddy.
So
You
if
and
I'm
me
on
both.
their side, they won't know.
But no, the reality is people ask me also, well, can you train somebody to do it? And the answer is yes. I actually can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The question I can't tell you is whether you really want to open that door.
Yeah, whether anyone's actually willing to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most people aren't, because when they start, it has a tendency to go a little further than we anticipated.
Well, that's like me personally. Being a medium would be the most terrifying thing ever for me. Like I would absolutely not be able to handle that in any way, shape, or form.
Why?
Because I'm terrified of ghosts in every way. Okay.
Well, you just don't know how they operate, that's all.
Yeah, I was gonna say. It also in how they communicate. I mean, a lot of times, like when I'm going to bed, it's a party around my head, and I'm like, "You got it, guys," or by the side of my bed. I'm like, "Can you please take your party elsewhere?" Since I've been here, it doesn't happen as long, but or as often, as I should say. But when I was at the other place, it was almost a daily occurrence, and I'm like, guys, I can hear every word. Go somewhere else.
You forgot the cardinal rule there.
What's that?
Give them boundaries. They know if I close the door, they know in.
Yeah, I usually do, but there was a time where I was dealing with so much targeting that was one of the ones that I was in consistent nightly attack, and that was the one thing that I wasn't too concerned about for whatever reason. To have to put up another barrier, it was too much. So I usually let a lot of that stuff go and would just bitch at them. And then they'd move on. And if it was the same group every night, usually one or two of them would go, "We've got to move." And I'm like, thank God you're actually listening. So it just depended on who was in the group that night, yapping away.
No, see,
So that's a thing.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a little kid, and I mean like 7 years old, little, okay, so I had never really been scared of a lot of stuff up until that point, because you're a little kid. Like, the only thing that was scary was like maybe a monster that you'd seen in a movie that you weren't supposed to be watching, or something of that nature. And I remember I went to sleep, and the place where I grew up was like scary, dude. Like, if you were to think of it as an adult now, you'd be like, that's actually kind of terrifying. Like, it was how do I put that? It was a concrete basement.
Right.
That had, like, the rafters still showing on the top of it.
And you
like,
didn't have goes on the wall.
Yeah, and it was like a concrete floor. It completely unfinished. And there was a room in that house that had nothing but jars in it, like full of all kinds of different stuff. It was like jar room. Okay?
Mason jars and stuff like that, yeah.
Yes,
That's it.
Candy
okay.
jars.
And
Old
I
school.
lived at that
Over.
point with my grandparents. And my grandparents, when I was that age, were in their 80s. I mean, they were older people. Like, they grew up 1914 and 1918 was when they were
Right.
born. So they had some of the creepiest looking stuff hanging around because it was stuff they'd collected throughout the years. You know, so there were like antique dolls and like weird cornstalk dolls without faces and all kinds of stuff around that house that should have just been terrifying for a kid. But you don't think of it when you're growing up in that as being something scary because it's just, that's always how it's been. Alright? And I had somebody that was really, really important to me. And this was one of my first people that had ever really passed away in my young life at that point. And they were a huge part of my life. And I was sitting downstairs on my bed in the basement, and I, like, kind of was, like, half asleep and woke up kind of, like, startled. Because I felt like there was somebody sitting on the end of my bed. And I remember waking up and, like, looking around, and there being an indent on the bed, but there being nobody there.
Nobody there to
And,
make
like,
it.
I would try to pull my blanket, and it wouldn't move because somebody was, like, applying pressure to it. So it was like, there was definitely someone there. And I remember as, like, 7 years old, that just being the most terrifying thing in the entire world to me was not knowing what was there. It wasn't the fact that there was something there, but not knowing who or what it was that was there. And I remember just, like, laying there the entire rest of the night, just, like, completely terrified, like, no sleep. And since that point, like, ghosts and, like, entities, that kind of thing, have just been terrifying to me because that was, like, my first experience with anything like that. And it was horrible. And, like, I still can't.
Do you physically see ghosts now? Clearly you weren't then.
I don't see ghosts per se. I see things that would be like kind of out of the corner of your eye, like you think you see something and then it's gone. But I don't see full, like, in your face apparitions of something, like either trying to communicate with you or anything else. It's always like a feeling, or like there's something that's beside me but I don't know what it is, or like I will turn because something, I was like, whoa, what was that? And then I'll see something out of the corner of my eye, but never any like full-fledged apparitions. No.
See, this is where I run into the problem, because since I was born, like since day one, I've been able to see the actual entities. So, of course, I never got that empty space. You know, I get the indentation on the bed. And it's like, would you mind? You know. Because them walking through and just looking in on me, that was just plain normal to me. So it took me to figure out that people couldn't actually do that.
And for me, I think it would have honestly been better with me if I had seen something. But seeing nothing at all but the indent was... It opened up my young mind to it being anything at that point. And then
your brain's just
your imagination just runs wild with what this could be versus what it probably actually was.
Yeah.
Friend, there was only one thing that actually scared me about that basement, and it was those mason jars.
Oh, they were...
Because when they moved out of that house in 2012?
The aunts moved out in 2012.
We took half of the mason jars to Kayla's mom's house, and we had 6 jars of rhubarb.
I think it was overdated.
So it was 1958.
Mm-hmm.
And no. We put it in a
not
fucking
eat
pie.
that.
We put it in a goddamn pie and we fed it to the family. And the stupid part is, I was like, this shit has the Black Plague in it. I fucking know it. I
No,
was
couldn't.
so scared to eat that pie.
Let's face it. Couldn't have the Black Plague. Although that was an enjoyable time frame. I made a lot.
It had some kind of disease in it, I swear. Like,
Well, it couldn't have been entirely healthy. You know, mind you, canning back then was better than canning now.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Friend, well, but to be fair, I'm just going to say it now. We made this pie in 2019.
Yes, we did.
Well, here's the thing. From my standpoint, I'm the last person to talk to about whether that was a good idea. You know, but then I've got an immune system that is second to just about nobody's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, but the reality is, and again, this is something that I can teach people, but so many people will tell them, like, I talk to some readers, and, oh, I can do this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, why are you always sick then?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can heal yourself that well. I have had one cold in 25 years. Right.
I wish.
And allergies? No, I don't have those. But I figured out how to actually teach people how to actually improve their health. But the kicker you got to realize is you never tell somebody this is a replacement for modern medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Keith, I'm not quite at the age of you, but we're kind of the same. I've had a cold for 2.5 years. Friend.
Well, as the saying goes, better you than me.
Yeah, right.
You know, if that sounds a little unsympathetic, it is.
Friend, hey. Friend, it's just one of those things eventually you get used to. Friend.
Well, that's like me and getting a heart attack. I was driving my son to work one day. He looks at me and goes, "Dad, you don't look like you're well." I said, "No, I'm in the middle of a major coronary." He goes, "Well, shouldn't we go to the hospital?" I said, "No, I'll drop you off at work. I'll go home and sleep it off."
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not a good thing to tell most people. My son just goes, "Okay." You know.
Right.
Friend.
In other words, he knows.
For our listeners, don't do that. Okay?
No.
No.
You have a heart attack, get your tail feathers to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Keith is a different type of person who can handle something like that in a very positive way. So this is a big deal, folks.
Keith has a lot of players in his ball game.
In ways
As a little witch.
Has a lot of players in his ball game, I think is what he said.
Yeah, that's what I said. Lots of players up there that'll look after him.
Yes.
Oh, Lord, yeah. I keep telling people, God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over. But no, the reality is modern medicine for most people works. Put it to use. The fact is that psychics, the sensitives may have a slightly better immune system or maybe even more highly sensitive to illnesses and to stress than other people around you.
Yeah.
Friend. I
Yo.
don't have a good immune system.
Would you like to have one?
Well, no, I honestly think I'm good because, okay, so, Keith, I don't know if you know this. I had a stroke last year.
I think I heard word of that.
So
I tried one of those back in 2018.
Yeah, I had mine while we were camping, and I continued camping for 5 days. And then came home, unpacked everything, and then the next day I went to the doctor and actually talked to him.
Okay, be honest. The next day, your wife made you go to the doctor and talk to them because I'm like, you can barely move now. Get your ass up. We're going in.
And
okay.
The way I kind of look at it now is I am too mad to die. Friend, I am too stubborn, too pissed off at the world, and friend, until I win, I'm not dying. So
Well, I gotta ask Cole. Have you lost anything in the way of viable functionality since then because of the stroke?
Well, he has become dumber.
Shut up.
But that was already a problem to begin with.
I can be perfectly honest with you. The only thing that he's lost a little bit of is the function in very, very fine motor skills. Okay. So everything else he's like pretty much 100% on still. It's just every once in a while, like if he's trying to grasp little tiny things, he'll drop them and then have to like re-pick them up. But other than that,
I've been a fat guy all my life. I haven't noticed that because I haven't been able to do that forever. For fat fingers, like they just don't work. But
yeah, no. The reason I was asking is because when I had my stroke in 2018, I went in unable to walk and unable to talk. My whole left side had shut down. Right.
yeah,
And I didn't like I wouldn't have gone if it hadn't been for one friend. But the thing is, if you understand how you're doing it, I know how to accelerate my healing to the point that on the 28th of December of 2018, I had the stroke. On the 30th, I got out of bed. And of course, the doctor's looking at me going, the nurse goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going for a walk." She looks at me and goes, "Well, you do know you had a rather serious stroke." I said, "Your point?" I was out on a day pass on the 31st of December. But then I know how to accelerate my healing.
now what I will say that was weird about Cole's is we went into the hospital, they ran the tests, to try to figure out what was going on. And they had told him that he'd had a pretty, well, not just one, but several strokes. And he was, God, the next day he was like, "Why can't I get out of here?" Like, he was totally fine and, like, standing up and walking around and being like, "Dude, okay, I just want to go home. Like, there's nothing they can do for me here. I'm just sitting here." And we left, like, pretty much 2 days later, because they wanted to keep him for observations, and he's like, "Dude, I'm fine. I just want to go home."
they had to do that echo thing.
Yeah,
I
and
remember-
yeah, he hasn't had any, like, we haven't had to go back for anything or anything like that since.
I was just mad because they told me the only thing I have to do is now I have to take a baby aspirin once a day for the rest of my life. I'm like, a baby fucking aspirin is going to fix this. The fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. They tried that with me too.
Friend,
And that's okay. They told me to do that too.
I do take it. Like, frick.
Well, you're one up on me.
It's $10 for 2 years worth at Costco.
So he's like,
pretty good.
why not? I mean, it's not going to cost us anything. I was like, okay. But,
Friend,
No, they gave me. I was lucky. And this is the thing, and I caution everybody listening. My method of dealing with medical, not a good one for the average person. It'll get you killed.
yeah.
I will say absolutely the same thing with my method of dealing with medical. You should get in there and get checked out, like, immediately. Do not, like, wait for 2.5 years to do so. It's probably not the best idea for 90% of the world. Okay.
Oh, if not more.
Right.
No, I mean, But the fact of the matter is, yes, sensitives do have an odd way of looking at the world. We don't have a choice.
Yep.
I've tried looking at the world the way other people do, and all it does is frustrate me.
Mm-hmm.
Same here. Same here, Keith.
I look at a lot of what's going on, and people go, well, we've got all these elections going on. And I just mentioned this the other day. Most of the people nowadays, you go looking at elections, and you go, and people are putting people into office that are already ready to retire.
Yeah.
You go back 1,000 years, the people, the kings, were in their 20s and 30s.
Or 8.
Or, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the way people make decisions. I'm like, not did you think before you did that, but did you think?
Is that your foot, Robert?
That's my foot. That's as of Tuesday just gone. That's a lot better than it had been because there was nothing there 5 weeks ago, and it's starting to really all come together and cover up now. So that's 5 weeks.
For those that don't know, in the video, Robert was showing a picture of his ankle and the wound and how severe it is, but it is dramatically better since the last picture I've seen it. So this is a big, big deal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what he's
video at all?
Yeah, this is how it was 5 weeks ago. If it'll come into clarity.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
It's a lot
So
worse.
yeah, it's a lot better now. Yeah, that was a lot worse back then. It hadn't started getting any skin really coming up and growing. So I took Keith's advice there and said, heal, heal, heal. And it has been.
You know what I heard works for the Greeks?
Out of the 14.
Windex.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Just saying, guys. I thought.
Oh, that's from
that's
my
just-
Big Cat
that's
Freak
just
wedding.
Oh. No, you know what? I will tell you, though, like, the attitude that you have with healing makes a huge damn difference in what's actually going on. Because I know, like, I was really sick for a really long time. Okay. And there is no reason I should be here, honestly. They pretty much told me I was dying and there's nothing any of the medical professionals could do anymore about it. Like, I'd gone through everything and they were on their last leg. They were like, dude, we've done everything. Like,
well, at least they didn't ship you to the morgue.
So,
true.
After all that, somehow I still ended up like being I'm cancer free for 6 years now.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I was never supposed to have left like that fucking last procedure that we did. Like they gave me like a 2% chance after that. So I don't know how the hell I'm here, except for the fact that I was like, bitches, I ain't dying. I'm like 27. This isn't happening. So screw it. I'm not gonna die. Watch me. So I have
well, the doctors at the hospital called me a challenge.
So I really believe that a lot of it to do with health is like your perspective on it too, like how much you're willing to say, oh hell no, this is not happening and I'm pushing through this.
Hold on, Robert. Did they say you were a challenge or did they call you challenged? Because that's a totally
said
conversation.
That they call me a challenge because of all the things I've been going through with the leg being cut off and then the ankle and then stomping on the stump there on Tuesday and grazing that open. So yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be painful.
No, yeah, see, that's a little bit.
So many people are taught to fear dying.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you, and whatever you do what you will with it. I don't fear dying at all. I got my options as to what I'd like to do to pass the next time. But death itself is easy. Living is the challenge.
Amen.
I have plans.
Period.
Friend, me and Kayla are going to live till I'm 80.
Oh,
we're going to go to Stonehenge. I'm putting 2 screws into the side of it, and we're putting a hammock up. That way we can live out our days in Scotland Yard. John doesn't like this plan, but this is our plan.
You may not get that second screw in.
Well, if they
He's
got the
holding
people
the end
painting,
of that damn hammock because if I'm going to Scotland Yard for the rest of my life, I'm at least sitting in the hammock once.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, Stonehenge is a whole different ball game because I finally figured out what the heck it was for.
Oh, yeah?
portal.
Yeah, but what it was for is not what people are thinking.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know how much that
I
place
love
has
Keith's
changed?
memory on this.
What?
You know how much for that? So my aunt actually had, because she grew up in England, she has pictures of herself as a little girl playing on Stonehenge.
Yes.
And now you can't even get close to it.
That's because of the number of geniuses that decided that vandalism was a good idea.
Right?
Now, I got no problem. I figure if we had just taken one of the vandals, and I'm probably going to get in trouble with this, but used it for what the altars in Stonehenge were used for in the first place, and just leave the body there, people would have quit with the vandalism.
Oh, for sure.
There's a girl
Yo.
on Facebook, Keith, that I got to share her thing with you, her page with you. Because I think you'll love her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you feed her inner child with those thoughts.
You do realize her inner child is demented.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure. That's why we know her.
But, no, I have never really feared death. It's not something I think about. When it happens, it happens. I'm not worried about it. Friend.
Well, I had one girlfriend tell me flat out, she goes, so you have a heart attack in the mall and you hit the floor. She says, I just tell the EMP to back off from me. You're just taking a nap. I said, yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
So, you know, I've never been one that thinks about death, I guess. Like, every time somebody's ever gone into the hospital, or every time somebody's going for a surgery, or every time I'm doing that, because it's been several hundreds of times now, I never think about the possibility of them not coming out of it. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll see you in an hour, or I'll see you in 12 hours, or whatever it is, right? I gotta say that I'd never ever once thought about that until a couple of weeks ago. And
Oh, yeah.
when you're not sure what's happening with one of your children, it's a very, very different way of thinking about stuff. And I mean, I've been around death my whole life. Like, I've lost probably more people than most people know. Okay? And I've never thought of death as being a terrible thing or a scary thing or anything like that.
Now, I keep wishing a lot of people could have it.
Right. Until, like, when I wasn't sure what was going on with Jalen and we had to go down to that hospital and try to figure out what was going on with him and had no idea, that was probably in my entire life, like with all of the horrible medical shit, with everything else, that was the worst feeling I have ever had. Ever.
Oh, yeah. But that's not your death, that's theirs. And
Yeah,
that's
I'm not scared of my death. I am absolutely terrified of when other people die.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky I gave my dad last rites.
And, like, to me, I feel it's kind of selfish of me, but I don't know. I guess I just don't want to lose. Like, I would prefer if I was the next person to die on Earth.
That can be arranged.
And, well, that's the thing. I don't want it to happen for years. So,
But you'd prefer that versus somebody else that you cared about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe that is selfish, but I agree with you.
Yeah, like thoughts of my parents going, or Kayla's parents, or anyone else we know. I don't like to think about that at all. My own, though, like I said, I don't think about it on a daily basis. I don't stress about it. When I do think about it, I fantasize a little bit.
How's it gonna happen?
See, I just look at death as an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Make sure you give everything to me, though.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I know that when I die, I'm going to be in the middle of doing something. And I'm not going to get to finish.
My grandfather did that. He was in the process. Yep. And that's exactly how he felt. Pissed him off. He was in the process of painting his back porch. Keeled over and had a massive heart attack.
And if it's like you guys say, and I have the choice to come back at any time I want, I am coming back to tell everyone fucking finish that for me. Because I want it goddamn finished.
Well, the reality of that is you do have the option. It usually takes, for people to be able to manifest on this side and get a message back across, quite often will turn out to be close to 4 years. And the reason for that, well, the problem is that the Bible got it right. A day is as 1,000 years. Which means a second works out to about 4.5 days. A minute works out to about 9 months. Okay, so if it only takes you 5 minutes to get your head turned around, you're 4 years down the road.
Essentially.
Gotcha.
Well, fuck, guys. We only have 4 minutes left.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Nikki.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your show that you do?
Well, it's Restore Belief with Nikki on YouTube, and I'm the only one with that title, so it's very easy to find. Can also be found on Facebook.com/Nikki, NIKKI.JACOBS.376. My YouTube show is about pretty much every subject in the book that there's going on in life. Try to bring positivity. Mostly talk about ETs and paranormal and cryptids. But we typically talk about, and I mean we, because the chat is always open, and I'm doing a live broadcast every Wednesday, or technically it's Wednesday at 12:15 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. It's, late Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning, and I do it that way because it's usually after SOR, Spaced Out Radio. So it's when everybody gets out and wants to continue the chat, and that's why I created the Night Glow, which is what I call that. Those evening chats. So we talk about everything in chat, and people bring up a lot of really good questions. And
Excellent.
if I do a daytime, then that's a different ballgame. So
There's probably something important going on if you're doing a daytime one.
yeah, usually.
All right, Robert, or Keith, can you give us a breakdown of yours?
Yeah, that's the easy part. You look for R. Keith Andrews on YouTube. You might find it under Inner Voice Enterprises. Okay, but I've got to find my site. It literally is a capital IVE inside a circle. But you just look it up. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. And of course, YouTube is the easy one. But we talk about spirituality, self-help, and the alien issue. And I've got a lot of different books available through that site. Of course, I've gone back into the consulting side, which means contacting me is easy.
All right, guys. Next week we're going to hit on. Nikki, write this down. Okay. We're going to talk about cryptids and why they seem to be making a resurgence in media. Because I've noticed in the last couple months, we're seeing a lot more of them again.
The media has nothing else to focus on.
What's that, Robert?
Because the media has nothing else to focus on.
That's true.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is damn true. So, but Robert, do you have anything going on other for personally with your
Not recently, no. I had been joining up with another friend over in New York, but I haven't seen her for about last 2 months. So I don't know what she's doing. She's a medium as well and a tarot reader, and she'd often pull me onto her show and get me to read people and see if I could help them out with the energy transfer stuff. Sort of like what Keith does, but I sort of focus in on the healing on them.
Okay.
So if they had something wrong, I could usually tell them without them saying a word.
Rock on. Well, if you end up doing that again, let us know.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
We'll let everyone know. Thank
All right.
you everyone for joining us tonight. As always, it was an awesome show, friend.
Thanks so much for the invite.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Keith. If you can, I'd like to keep doing it, friend. If you're feeling up to it.
Well, it depends on energy levels and what day of the week we're on.
Absolutely, friend. Well, we are on every Wednesday night from 10 to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and as always, try and keep your positivity levels up. It's hard in this day and age, but, friend, it's kind of a requirement also in this day and age. So, friend, as they say on Facebook, if you don't like it, just scroll on past. Friend. All right, guys.
And don't get stuck in Facebook jail.
Exactly. Friend, everybody have a good night, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Well, thank
Will do.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Data transfer complete. System malfunction. Please evacuate immediately. Program terminated.
Son of a biscuit eater.